pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. As we talked about our last subcommittee meeting, I think we had decided that we would go over the applications tonight. Toss those that after reviewing them, we felt weren't strong enough to compete with the strongest, or did not have did not meet certain criteria that we were looking for in an application. We can just, well, before we get started, does anybody want to comment on that? Anybody want to add?
I have a question.
Sure.
If we, as a subcommittee, if we decide that we don't think one should move on, can the steering committee come back and look at it, or can that group talk to the steering committee and try to?
Well, I can't speak, I don't think any of us can speak for the steering committee, but I think that would be highly unlikely that the steering committee would do that, given the responsibility that's been put in front of us, that if we feel that there's other applicants that deserve, more of a review than, look, I think it's clear that we'd like to give each one of these organizations help if we could, but we're simply not going to be able to do that. And this process is not, there's no such thing as a perfect process, but there's a limited pot of money. We've got what was it, $23 million in this stack of requests, something like that, 28, 23. How much?
23.
2352. Okay. And this is just one committee. So, and we've got roughly $28 million the county does to consider. So it is what it is, and that's why, it's not going to be easy, but it has to be done. So I can start with.
Commissioner, may I ask a question?
Sure, I'm sorry.
Mainly, it's more of a procedural, since we are going to be going down the list. I have, as reading many of these, some were a solid yes, some were a solid no, and then I have dashes where, do we want to do lost revenue only, things like that. So in this process, and since we're only pretty much going with yes or no, whether we're going to hear the proposal, I wasn't sure how we wanted to do that, if we had questions, if I just vote yes right away and then ask a question.
Well, we do it like, what my thoughts were is that, we'll start with a application, we'll discuss it. Somebody can make a motion to move it on, or somebody can make a motion to move it back.
Okay.
And we'll let the vote stand. And the votes, that vote is speaking for this board. So
Okay.
if it's a 3-2 vote, it's a 3-2 vote.
Sure.
So I'm just going to start out unless anybody else has any questions. Do you have any questions, Vicky?
No. What I'm passing out here is just the roll call sheet for you to follow along. There's going to be, 20, unless you wanted to take them in blocks. I thought the idea was each applicant gets its own vote, right?
Right.
So I'm just passing out how I'm going to be recording it in case there's any.
Well, I'll just, we'll start with Nana Claire's Kitchen. Find that. I'll be the last one I grab.
It was on the top of the pile.
Not this type, not my pile was. Come on. This it? Eric, you're right.
That'd help.
Wise guy. Anna Claire's Kitchen, request is for $10,000. Anna Claire's Kitchen is a nonprofit. They are located in Porter County, according to their application. They're located at 3907 Calumet Avenue in Valparaiso. Stated, a summation of their statement is the funds would allow us to function fully again and be used to buy ingredients and new equipment to be able to teach kids and help food businesses operate fully. There's a longer explanation here. I can read that if the board would like me to read it.
I've already read it.
Commissioner, I believe on the list we have that it lists Anna Claire's as a small business, not a nonprofit.
Right. Yes, you're right. Nonprofit, or a small business.
Did you want to have discussion, or
Yes.
should we just open up for
Let's open up for discussion.
make
Just feel
a
free to.
motion?
Yeah.
If somebody wants to motion, somebody wants to,
I'll make a motion to say yes for this one.
I would second it. And then can we have discussion now?
yeah, we got a motion and a second, and I'll open it up for discussion.
I would like to say that I think we're missing a little bit of information, and I think that on a lot of these. And so I'm thinking that if we want to hear from them, maybe if Vicky's going to get back to people who we might want to have come make a presentation to us, that she list the questions, that we'd like answers to in their presentation. Can that be done, or
When we send that letter.
when we send out that letter?
Well, if you have specific questions for them,
Yeah,
okay, then you'd have to get me the questions to
Okay.
get to them.
okay. Well, a lot of these, I'm going to say the same thing as I would speak to this Nana Claire's, is that they didn't quantify the exact amount of revenue lost.
Yeah.
There's a lot of not giving us figures on things. And so I'm assuming that if that figure works out, they didn't say exactly when they reopened, which I'd like to know. And let's see, and I'm wondering if what they're doing will be sustainable with this grant. And we don't know if they've had any other federal aid from other COVID programs or, so I would tend towards yes, depending on the answers to these questions.
And to kind of speak to that as well, the reason I said yes is they did clearly show that there was a negative impact due to COVID.
Yes, they did.
And they did show that what they want to do reflects on basically making up for losses
Yes.
due to COVID. So I would be interested in hearing more, but just like you said, I don't know how far in the red they were.
Right.
I don't know how much other aid they've gotten. I see that they did the first camp in 2 years, but I'm not sure, like, with some of the questions that you had written last Monday,
Right.
some of that, I think, just the general questions that you asked would help
Okay.
cover this.
Those are the questions.
Yeah, those were the sets
Okay.
I'm interested in.
Okay, yeah, that was what I was on the agenda topic for later on when
Okay.
we talk about the changes to that scoring rubric and the project checklist that you talked about last week.
Yes.
Mike?
I'm ready to vote.
Eric?
Ready to vote?
Well, here's my thoughts. It isn't a lot of money, it's $10,000. I do question, I mean, they're offering a service that most of the schools offer, home ec courses. And then we have that the issue of the missing information that's not included here, where other applicants have included it. Just my thoughts.
May I
All
make
right.
one more comment?
Sure,
Because
sure.
I do agree that home ec has that. The one thing I thought that was interesting is that the woman was a certified ServSafe instructor, so she could help new restaurant staff, and so in the community, people can help get certified for more of the safety part. So I thought that was just another aspect of it, helping some of the other small businesses and the restaurants that were impacted, as they have a lot of turnover right now.
Right, and she's helping, she's kind of like an incubator, helping
Yeah.
people, new entrepreneurs
Kitchen.
get started in business, which you don't find in schools. Plus, I don't know, since this is a small business and not a nonprofit, I would look at it a little differently. I wouldn't care that there's duplicative, necessarily, that there's duplicative services.
That's all.
Okay. We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we're not doing roll calls?
Yeah, we're going to do roll calls as well,
Okay.
but you have to do both.
Do you have to do both?
I think so. I think I have to do both.
If you're doing a roll call, doesn't it, like,
we
defeat the
don't
purpose?
Because Scott's, well, once you know the attorney come in. Okay, we can just, if you'd rather, let's start with me.
Oh, you want me to call the roll?
Yeah, you call the roll.
Okay. I'll just go by last name, if that's okay.
Okay.
Biggs,
No.
Brickner,
No.
Tamerlan,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
3 yeas, 2 nays, project advances.
Yay, the first one.
24 more to go.
Next, small business, Aurora Dental Wellness. The request is for $300,000. Any
I did have a
discussion?
question on that one. That's one of the ones I put a little dash next to of, do we have to give them the full 300,000, or can we cover just maybe like if they had staffing, to cover some of that if they didn't get some kind of PPP loan? But again, that's not a yes or no vote, so.
Yeah.
I thought we decided that we could give them a lesser amount, but that would be after, I think we talked about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Correct me
really
if I'm wrong, but
probably the steering committee would decide.
Okay.
We would note on, if it was moved to the steering committee, note that they have stated they would receive a lesser amount,
yeah.
if that was all that was offered. But we're not going to get an answer to that until we interview, if we interview. Any other comments?
Well, I think they did say somewhere in here that they did not receive a PPP loan, so we know that much, but I don't know if they've gotten any other grants or applied for any other ARPA money. I mean, we would still need to further question that. And again, they need to quantify, give a dollar amount on their harm. I mean, it seems to fit what we're trying to help people with. We don't know if their patient base is mainly from Porter County. That would be another question I would want to ask. And I would want to know if they think the business will survive with less money, if they got a lesser grant. I would want to know if they would accept less money too.
Okay. So the question is they move on or they do not move on? I'll entertain a motion for either.
I'll move that Aurora Dental Wellness moves on to the next stage.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion for Aurora Dental Wellness to move on to the second stage. Vicki, you want to take roll?
Yeah. And just to let you know, we're taking roll the same way we do it in council, where we rotate the beginning. Okay. Brickner,
No.
Tamerlan,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
No.
Biggs.
No.
We have 2 yeas and 3 nays. Project does not advance.
Panorama Now, request is for $24,000. You've all read their application. Any comments? Nothing, Mike?
I do not have a comment on Panorama.
Eric? Rebecca? I'll
You know what, I do have one. I just want to see if everybody else is on the same page. They have the, part of this list of sponsorships. Are they saying that they want the money we're giving them for them to give to somebody else? Because that's how I was reading it. I just wanted to see if everyone else kind of thought the same way.
I didn't think it fit the
Or not,
criteria.
that's fine.
I was going to make a motion to say no.
Is that you're making a motion?
I am making a motion to deny this request.
And a motion to deny, is there a second?
Second.
I got a second, Mr. Brickner. Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, so since this is to deny, it would be easier if it was all like to advance, yes or no. But, okay, so since this is a motion to deny, a yes means a no.
Yes.
A yes is to deny. Tamerlan,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Biggs,
Yes.
and Brickner.
Yes.
Okay, 5 yeas, meaning the project does not advance.
I have a question. Should we just make a motion to vote instead, would that make it easier?
It would be
If we just-
easier because
Let's make a motion
it
to
would
vote
be-
and just keep it all,
Okay.
I'm just throwing it out here to the
That's
group.
how I was thinking.
That way it's
Yes, no,
consistent.
advance.
Sure.
That-
Gotcha. We can do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be because we got 22 more to go.
Community Theater Guild?
Yes, they definitely have shown and demonstrated a lot of loss from what I've seen, and I think all of us know that theaters and performances have definitely taken a huge hit and had a large negative impact to them with COVID. And it did show, for the most part, from what I see, they're only asking for half of their income lost. So they're not asking for 100% compensation, and they're showing exactly what it's going.
The requested amount is $62,125.
I would agree with what Rebecca said.
We have a motion to vote.
Second?
We get a motion first, Mike.
I move that we
Oh,
vote
I
on
thought you did. I thought you made it.
This is just a move to vote, not a up or down, just vote. Okay, I move that we vote.
All right, Vicki, we got a motion and a second to vote.
Okay, Vance,
I vote yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Biggs,
No.
Brickner,
No.
Tamerlan.
Yes.
3 yeas, 2 nays, project advances. The next one, if I could just say, this is the Coffee Creek Watershed Preserve that had 2 proposals. And so, just to be clear on the roll call sheet, I have the boardwalk project listed first, followed by the revenue loss. So just to make sure that you're voting on the right project.
Coffee Creek Watershed Boardwalk. The request is for $130,000. What I will say about this is, this is actually a pretty popular destination for outdoor activity. It attracts a lot of residents, especially in the northeast sector of the county. And they have been in existence for quite a while, and they do raise funds throughout the year to take care of the infrastructure there at the park.
How do they raise funds? Do we know how is that a fundraising efforts on their part to do that, or private donations?
Both. I think both. They'll have fundraisers. I think one of the things that they do is they have a outdoor venue that they rent out for like weddings, wedding receptions and stuff. I think one of their claims is that during COVID they couldn't do that, and they lost a major portion of their money, which is the other. They actually made 2 applications, which I don't understand why they did, but they did. And this particular application for 130, the funding will be used to purchase and install an environmentally friendly Wickcraft boardwalk that runs along Coffee Creek and directly through a heavy stormwater flow area. This area has become impassable at times due to stormwater flow. The stormwater is from west of 49 as well as a portion of Coffee Creek Center.
I would like to say I walked that trail many times with my son during COVID, and we had to walk up into the brush, wound up with ticks. There was water running through that trail. It is not ADA compliant in any way at this point. There is no way anyone can get to that back loop at this point,
Yeah.
unless they want to walk in the woods.
We'll entertain a roll call for a vote if.
I might just say that I'm wondering if this is the whole cost they're asking for, and if they have any, if not, if they have any other funding, and we need to find out if they had
Right.
got any other COVID money. It's kind of a thin application.
Yeah.
But I would move that we vote.
Second, Vance made the motion,
Second vote.
seconded
Yeah.
by
There's
Tom.
been a motion, a second.
Wagner,
Yes?
Biggs,
Yes.
Brickner,
Yes.
Tomerlin,
Yes.
and Vance.
Yes.
5 yeas, project advances.
Okay. Next on the list is Coffee Creek Watershed. Requested amount is $5,000. And this was the venue that I spoke about earlier, that they had lost. The assistance to nonprofits, specifically revenue loss in 2020 due to the pandemic. Our 2 rental venues saw a significant decrease in revenue. Many events were canceled or not scheduled. From 2015 through 2019, the average yearly rental was $7,560. In 2020, it was $2,200, and the difference of $5,360 from the previous five-year average. So they're looking to replace the revenue lost during the 2 years of the pandemic for the rental of the venue they have out there.
And I would say 2021, I'd want to know the revenue loss for that year as well. They didn't give that. And we don't know if they got any other federal aid for COVID.
Is there a motion to,
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second.
hi, Vicki?
Pete Biggs,
Yes.
Brickner,
No.
Tamerlan,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
and Wagner.
Yes.
4 yeas, 1 nay, project advances.
Shirley Hines Land Trust. Requested amount is $967,000, or $967,500. Trust you all read the application, it's kind of long. But basically, from what I've researched out of it, is they want to continue to create things on their property that what the public utilizes. They have you provided some drawings of, looks like an outdoor, what would you call that, outdoor
Amphitheater.
amphitheater? And
I would find it interesting, Sunset Hill Farm has an amphitheater pretty close to there, right, just north of 700?
but I don't know where, Shirley Hines owns land everywhere, so I don't know
Well, I was
where.
looking at the map they had here.
Well, yeah, because they're saying it's this Meadowbrook Nature Preserve. and they-
Meadowbrook.
The map they give makes it look like it's, almost parallel to
Yeah.
Sunset Farm, like on the other side of Meridian, I guess it would be.
And much like, or many of the other applications we read up to this time, it says, as a conservation organization, the multiple nature preserves in Porter County, we have recognized the value of providing outdoor space for people to recreate and gather safely during the pandemic. We have seen an increase in visitors to all of our nature preserves during this time. Shirley Hines Land Trust is pleased to offer these amenities free of charge for the community. Like, I think some of you have also mentioned, I mean, that we have no idea if this is matching,
Yeah, we don't.
whether COVID funds that they may have received. We're not gonna know that unless we interview.
Right.
We'll entertain a motion to vote.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, so Brickner,
Yes.
Tamerlan,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
and Biggs.
Yes.
5 yeas, project advances.
Hilltop Neighborhood House, requesting $500,000. And the narrative on this request is 2.5 pages long nearly, so I'm gonna, but it does say here, all the funds would be used to expand our child care for low-income families, infants and toddlers, room expansions, as well as food pantry program expansion services. We have no idea, they got some of this under contract, or start date, or they have matching funds, or,
Or if they can meet the
not gonna know
deadlines.
unless you interview.
And I might also mention that I know they have a different name for it here in Porter County, but I think they meet that. They're located in a qualified census trust area, which gives them automatic presumption right, to get.
In
to be
a
eligible.
QCT, they would not have to prove economic harm. It's already presumed that they suffered economic harm. That's not to say that they automatically get the funding.
Right.
That just means that they don't have to give you the dollars and cents. It's the same thing with the tourist industry. It's presumed that they're already negatively impacted.
But they said enough here, I mean, to make their case, even if they need to make it, I think, that they're impacted.
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to vote.
Okay? Tamerlan?
Yes.
Vance?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Biggs?
Yes.
And Brickner.
No.
We have 4 yeas and 1 nay. Project advances.
Neighbors' educational opportunities. Neighborhood educational opportunities. $1,500,000 request. Anybody on the board familiar with this organization? Like they're
I'm much more
Highway
informed
6. Pretty, I actually visited this operation. They have basically taken over adult education services from the Portage School District. They've been around a while.
11 years.
Yeah, certainly seemed to me to be, walking through the interior of the building and talking to its directors seemed to be managed well. But like with all of these applications, there's questions here that we don't have. So, what we're looking at is just the general value of the program, the number of people it touches.
And that's where, with this program, it looked like, with so many people that have lost jobs, they need retrained, and they were putting some, with the education they put in there, this is exactly, at least what I've seen downstate, what they're trying to push for, is this to help retrain people to get different jobs or move on, or quickly train people for our shortages. And from what, at least from their proposal, it clearly stated where they lost, and it clearly stated where they would benefit the county. It's not just one specific demographic.
And I'd like to note that they did say that they got PPP loans.
Yep.
And that they applied for the city, for both Valpo and Portage, city ARPA funds. But the thing, and I like what they're doing, I'm thinking, I don't know why the Portage school system decided to get out of the adult ed business. Maybe they thought that wasn't sustainable. That's what I'm worried about. Their debt is $4.5 million. I'm worried about sustainability because of the level of their debt. And they've lost, due to state legislation this year, their per pupil amount of money they get, because there's new legislation, no state funding for high school students that are older than 22 years. And that's not based on the pandemic. I don't know if they've gotten any other money towards this program. And the total cost of this, they say, is over $2 million, and they've only got $75,000 secured. So I like what they want to do, but I'm concerned that it's not sustainable.
Entertain a motion to vote.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Vance?
I vote no.
Wagner?
Yes.
Biggs?
Yes.
Brickner?
No.
Tamerlan?
Yes.
3 yeas, 2 nays. Project advances.
Oops, sorry. Oh my gosh.
Center of Workforce Innovations. request for $10,000. Comment?
Well, I have some comment. They haven't quantified their economic harm or that it was caused by COVID. And I can't tell whether it serves Lake County or Porter County. They don't have any explanation in the second square of the proposal, where it asks for them to explain in detail how the funding request will be used to address the significant challenges or negative impacts. They didn't put anything. And they didn't attach anything.
The closest I could find is that they used to do marketing with, with paper and word of mouth and meeting with people, and that they want to change that since
Yeah.
the pandemic showed they can't do that anymore, but that was about as close as I could find.
Right. So I just think this is severely lacking in information, and I'm not sure that they've shown causation here, that their harm was caused by COVID. It seems like in this day and age, they need to have a online presence, even before COVID. And like I'm saying, I don't know where they're really serving, because it talks about listing Lake County locations, and we want it to be Porter County.
Entertain a motion to vote.
Make a motion.
Second.
Wagner,
No.
Biggs,
No.
Brickner,
No.
Tomerlin,
No?
and Vance.
No.
We have 5 nays. Project does not advance.
Dress for school, $10,000 request. Says here, as indicated above in the longer explanation of use, the organization was affected by COVID in terms of incurring additional expenses due to the schools being closed. We have also seen an increase in the number of families we serve, hearing from many families about job losses, illnesses, etc., causing a loss of decrease in income, unable to afford items such as new clothing for their children. All money we receive would be used for purchasing clothes or shoes for Porter County children in need. A grant of $10,000 would allow us to purchase clothing and shoes for approximately 65 children.
I would like to mention too that they do actively fundraise and ask for parents throughout the school district to volunteer for that. I've been given at least 3 different emails from the social workers, so I know that they're actively trying to get donations and funds elsewhere, and the mold problem definitely decimated what they had when COVID shut down for a while. It really got rid of a lot of what they needed.
And it sounds like the mold problem was caused because of the school closure, which was
Yes.
because of COVID.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah. And it says in the spring of 2022, they served 500 children.
Yep.
They were spreading, not just the Valpo schools, but all kinds of school districts in Porter
Exactly.
County. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second?
Biggs,
Yes.
Brickner,
Yes.
Tomerlin,
Yes.
okay, Vance,
Yes.
and Wagner.
Yes.
5 yeas. Project advances.
Kid Funds Corporation, $24,000. We're requesting $24,000, which would replace lost donations from events which were canceled due to COVID. We also require funds because of additional needs, but we will try to solicit donations as well. Kids Funds Corporation provides financial assistance to families in need for their special needs. Children can receive speech, occupational, physical, developmental, and nutritional therapies. Kids Funds is the only organization in Porter County meeting these significant needs.
And they say that all the money they get directly benefits the children. And they did quantify their harm without the fundraisers, 2 fundraisers at $12K each. That's the 24 they're asking for.
And they do serve all of Porter County as well,
Right.
so.
Right.
They work with children with autism, spectrum, CP, whatever that is, Down syndrome. Come on, help me out.
Chromosomal syndrome.
Chromosomal syndromes, feeding issues, including post-NICU babies. Entertain a motion to vote.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Brickner,
Yes.
Tamerlan,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
and Biggs.
Yep.
5 yeas, project advances. If I could just make a comment, this is one of the nonprofits that I have not been able to prove is a 501c3. It really
Okay.
sounds like it is to me, so we will have to make a note of that. Bring proof that you're a 501c3.
Okay.
And I'll let them know.
Okay.
Or-
Portage YMCA, request $800,000. To be, the request is for the construction of a pool.
I make a motion to vote.
Is there a second? Second or additional discussion?
Are you going to allow discussion after, if you get a second? Or should we discuss?
I'll second it.
Now we can discuss.
Okay, so can we discuss it?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay. I'm not sure that they really show, I mean, they had a problem before the pandemic here in not having a pool. And I guess they couldn't get a pool, borrow a pool or whatever, use somebody else's pool because of COVID. But it looks like, do they have any other money? They're hoping to get money from the city. They have a lead donor, but they didn't say amount. Capital campaign just to maintain a pool. We don't know if they have any commitments.
I had a hard time finding where COVID caused this problem,
Yeah,
just to put it short.
I did too.
That's all I had to say.
Any additional discussion? Get a vote, Vicki?
Tamerlan,
No.
Vance,
No.
Wagner,
No.
Biggs,
No.
and Brickner.
No.
5 nays, project does not advance.
Valparaiso Women's Club? I guess that's the same as Valparaiso Women's Association.
Yeah, that must be their name for the 501c3 or something.
Request is for $490,000. Any comment?
I do wish they would have put in the revenue they lost with the rentals, because that was kind of what I was more interested in than their plans to renovate.
Me too.
Because I don't know how that's related to COVID either.
Exactly. I would agree with that. That was my problem. And I don't, this seems to me, this is a small group, I think, and they, I think, did not have the benefit of somebody professional to help them fill out their application, whereas other groups do, and then they do better applications. I don't know if there's some way we can help this group if they had a better application, because I don't see I want to know what they lost, like you said, and I don't see that this building, house has needed repairs for years and years, I think. And it's not something that was caused by COVID, and I think, I'm just saying, I'm guessing because they didn't provide the amount, but all the rent or fundraisers they usually have, I would guess, is not nearly enough to do all these repairs they want. And I noticed, I totaled up the home repairs, total to $409,000, but they requested $490,000. And, so, I just have a lot of questions about this.
It's an organization I support.
I
know
do
they need the
too.
renovations. I
Yes.
just don't see how
If it
this.
fits here.
If it fit, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I can't even tell, I mean, there's no explanation to how they could even come up with these figures. If they had a professional contractor, a licensed contractor come in and tell them what it is.
right.
There's no bids.
There's nothing to substantiate it.
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second.
We have a motion to vote in a second.
Vance,
No.
Wagner,
Yes.
Biggs,
No.
Brickner,
No.
Tomerlin.
No.
So we have 1 yay and 4 nays. Project does not advance.
Indiana Dancers. You belong to that, don't you, Mike?
I do, as a matter of fact. I can cut a rug.
Replace lost revenue caused by COVID-2, sponsor introductory square dance information booths, to advertise square dancing, to hold expanded lessons instructing the general public in square dancing. Goal is to replace lost revenue.
I should probably abstain from this vote.
The problem with this, again, is there's no, they can't quantify any of their numbers.
No.
And I'm not sure how, I guess they say how COVID caused the harm. I mean, they say they lost the opportunity to attract new dancers and lost revenue, but they don't say how much.
Well, there's no doubt that they would have lost revenue. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but we don't know the
But square
amount. and
dancing?
we-
well, there weren't too many of us felt like dancing during that time. I mean,
By yourself, maybe.
Yeah.
That's where, I mean, I wish they would have gone
It's
into
thin.
detail saying, we lost revenue, this is how much.
Exactly.
And we're trying to introduce a new program to gain that revenue instead of, we want to introduce square dancing to make some, to have those booths. It's just very, it's a hard one to wrap my head around.
I'll entertain a motion to vote.
Second.
Okay, so that's the motion. Okay, Wagner,
No.
Biggs,
No.
Brickner,
No.
Tomerlin,
No.
and Vance.
No.
5 nays. Project does not advance.
Liberty Township Volunteer Fire Department. The request is for $6 million to replace an aging fire station located in Liberty Township. I've actually had the pleasure, displeasure of walking through this station. It's got to be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, fire station in the county. It's in horrendous shape, actually. It's a wonder they can still function out of it. These are, as we know, this fire department, like our other fire departments, are first responders. They were first responding during COVID. Nobody else was leaving the house. They were leaving their volunteers, no less, responding to our residents' needs. There's some information here that we don't have. If there's any, what monies they may have matching. I see two of you in here, but I'm not going to ask any questions. It wouldn't be fair. Toward this project, or how they even come up with $6 million for a new station. But I'll motion to vote.
I have a question, because
Sure.
I just don't know. Could this possibly fit under the infrastructure, or no? Because I don't know the definition of
That was my
infrastructure.
question as well.
That's a question that she thinks.
Right. Well, there's no doubt that some of these proposals could fit into another subcommittee. But the infrastructure subcommittee was tasked with looking at infrastructure under the final rule as well as county facilities. Now, this is a facility, and we did have one non-county applicant that was referred to that subcommittee because it was a building project. But I think the strength of this being in the nonprofit category is that they are a nonprofit organization. They submitted to this subcommittee. It just seemed like it was more of a fit here than in the subcommittee that's looking at more like public. I mean, in a sense it's public, but they are a nonprofit.
But if, the fact is, all these ones that are going to move on to the committee, central committee, is that they're going to make that decision. It really doesn't matter at that point. I mean, it either moves on or it doesn't move on. You know, what flag it moves on under is not really relevant, actually.
And they'd have to meet the deadlines.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions
Yeah, a
here.
lot of
I mean, there's
questions.
a lot of questions in that, you know, is there matching funds? Can you meet the deadline to have everything under, your contract's got to be encumbered. What is it, December 31st, 2024, Vicki? Scott, yes?
Correct.
Yeah, so I mean,
It's gotta be completed.
we have no idea if any of this, you know, so any of these bricks and mortar projects have got to be locked and loaded and ready to move, if they're going to be selected. If they can't answer those questions, if they're simply not, then it's highly unlikely it's going to be voted on to move along. But we have a motion and a second to vote.
Biggs,
Yes.
Brickner,
Yes.
Tomerlin,
Yes?
Vance,
Yes.
and Wagner.
Yes.
5 yeas, project advances.
You hear that, Ned? All right. Indiana dancers.
We did that.
Whoa, I'm
good.
sorry. Well, they're,
Self-school.
whoa. I'm sorry. Self-school PTO. Pool repairs, $200,000. For many years, the self pool has been used as a place where children and disabilities could learn how to swim after school for free. Currently, self is not able to offer that service to the community. In addition, currently self students are not able to have swimming as a physical activity. We would like to fix the self pool for $200,000. Self School is a school obviously located here in Porter County, Valparaiso, that serves students throughout Porter County with disabilities. We provide extracurricular activities for these students, as well as give recognition to the teachers, paras as staff. In addition, we purchase educational materials requested by teachers, have provided a Thanksgiving meal for neediest families, and have plans to stock and maintain a clothing closet for students. And again, the request is $200,000.
I'm having a hard time finding where the pool damage was due to COVID, personally. I think it's a great thing, they need the pool repaired, all of that, it was hard for me to find that. Obviously, the school had a negative impact due to COVID, but not necessarily, I think the pool was already damaged prior to COVID.
Yeah. And I have a question about the organization. Here we're having the school's PTO ask for money instead of the school, and was the PTO harmed by COVID? That seems to be, would be the question, and how is the PTO harmed by COVID? I don't know how that could be. And I'm wondering if there's other funds. I don't know how the self-school operates, but from other school funding, is there money in the school systems to pay for this? We don't know.
I believe they do get separate funding than the regular community
regular
school
schools.
district, but I
don't know where it
I
comes
don't know
from.
it backwards and forwards.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions here.
yeah.
The biggest one being, was the pool inoperable before COVID? Entertain a motion to vote.
Make a motion.
Second?
Brickner,
No.
Summerlin,
No.
Vance,
No.
Wagner,
Yes.
and Biggs.
No.
Okay, so we have 1 yea, 4 nays, project does not advance.
Next project up to consider, the MAC Foundation, request for $3,300,000. It's kind of a lengthy description of their use of it. What we have here, we have an organization that offers free training to first responders, fire, and police. I'm probably missing somebody else. Anything else, Mike? Fire and police?
EMS.
EMS?
Yep.
I mean, I'll speak freely on this. I mean, it's a lot of money, but the organization fills a huge void here in our county. If it weren't here, we would fill it in that. You can speak on this as well, Mike. I mean, our police departments and fire departments have to use tax money to train firefighters and police officers and paramedics. If this organization didn't exist, everybody's training budget would go up there. That's for certain. So
I just think we're very fortunate to have this facility.
Yes.
again, it's a lot of money, and there's just but in an interview we'll find out if they can we'll consider less. But to me, this one's a no-brainer.
Right? Make a motion to
Yeah.
vote.
Second.
Summerlin,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Biggs,
Yes.
and Brickner.
Yes.
5 yeas, project advances.
Next one on the list is the Valparaiso YMCA. The request is for $950,000. Got a very lengthy explanation of use. Any comment from the board?
Well, I just say I think they clearly demonstrated the harm, 25% loss in revenue, and having an addition for the community room is what they want. That would help with increased programming. I would just say that they have a proven track record. They partner with a lot of other organizations in Porter County. They reach a lot of people in Porter County. They're a big employer. But we have questions. Do they have plans? Can they meet the deadlines? Do they have an itemized list of the costs? Do they have other funding? Have they received other federal COVID? So we need to find all that out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've definitely proven their loss. I used them for childcare, and they had to
Yeah.
shut down for several months.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of how much I paid them weekly, which was not little, times all of those children, and then the memberships people suspended. There was a huge revenue loss for the YMCA's all around here, and trying to get those programs back and get that up and running again. It's very important for our communities.
Entertain a motion to vote?
So moved.
I'll second.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry.
Yes, Rebecca.
So, okay, Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Biggs,
Yes.
Yes.
Brickner, and Tamerlan.
Yes.
5 yeas, project advances.
Next project up, Opportunity Enterprises, request for $2,500,000. My understanding, additionally, it's a very lengthy explanation of use. My understanding from when I'm reading it, they're looking to renovate the interior of their corporate area on Evans Avenue. And they have different space needs than they had before. They're growing. Again, they have a very long, distinguished track record here in our county of doing great things. Question is do they have matching funds? Can they receive less and still accomplish their goal here? We're not going to know that without an interview.
Yes, they clearly demonstrated that they lost revenue and they're dealing with increased costs.
Yeah.
But there's so many questions. I still want to hear more from them.
Right.
And for their second thing they want to do, use 1 million for the respite house. They already have 80% of the funds that they need to do that, so I thought that was good.
Yeah, they just they just actually had their, from my understanding, their gala last week, and it was very successful. They raised nearly $500,000. And I did see the plans for the respite program in southern Porter County of around Lake Eliza. It's something. I'll motion to entertain a vote.
Motion to vote.
Second?
Wagner,
Yes.
Biggs,
Yes.
Brickner,
Yes.
Tamerlan,
Yes.
and Vance.
Yes.
5 yeas, project advances.
The Lutheran University, Valparaiso University, request for $327,872. All right, Ruth, you're alumni here. What's this about?
Well, I mean, I only know what I read here. I'm not sure, I have a little problem with the connection to COVID, the harm. I mean, there is a pollution problem with plastic waste, and I understand, yeah, a lot of the COVID materials have plastic, and so it's probably exacerbated by COVID, creating more plastic waste. I mean, it's a good project, and it does have collaboration between the university and the Porter County Recycling, which we like to see. It reaches all of Porter County. But I think we would need to see an itemization of all their funds needed. It is a 3-year project, but it's one and done. We don't know if they have any other sources of funding. I thought it was kind of funny. It only mentions the faculty are donating. They didn't say anything about the university kicking in money. Let's go to the teachers. So we have some questions, I suppose we could ask them. I don't know, what do
Well,
other people think?
like you, I think it's a great program, great idea. I mean, anytime we can reduce the amount of plastics going into, our ditches and streams and lakes and ponds, and that's a great idea. I mean, but speaking for myself, I have an issue with taking these particular funds and using them for this particular idea. I think it's a great program if they can get it up and running, but it is short term, and it varies from my general opinion is how these monies should be utilized. I entertain a motion to vote.
So moved.
Second.
Biggs,
No.
Brickner,
No.
Tomerlin,
No.
Vance,
No.
and Wagner.
No.
5 nays, project does not advance.
Lakeshore Public Radio. Additional staffing, $402,263. I mean, clearly, they're not asking for monies for any damage that the pandemic may have created. This money would be used to grow their operation there, from what I can read. Again, a great organization. They feel the need, but I don't see how it's COVID related.
I couldn't find the correlation myself.
Right, I would agree too. I don't see that they were harmed by COVID.
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second.
Who seconded, I'm sorry, Brickner? Okay, Biggs, okay.
We tied.
You tied, yes, exactly. Okay, Brickner,
No.
Tomerlin,
No.
Vance,
No.
Wagner,
No.
that was no,
No, sorry, I'm losing my voice.
and Biggs.
No.
No.
goodness.
5 nays, project does not advance.
Next one on the list is the Boys and Girls Clubs of Northwest Indiana. $4 million. I guess the questions that I have, I mean, this is a very reputable organization, does a lot of good. But here in the last 2 or 3 years, they have combined, it's no longer the Boys and Girls Clubs of Porter County, it's the Boys and Girls Clubs of Northwest Indiana. And if we were to donate funds, what guarantee do we have that those funds are going to be spent in this county? It's just a question you're going to have to ask in an interview.
They did say in there that if they got money, they would be spent only on the Porter County clubs. So just have to make sure that was in the contract.
Yeah. I'm just curious how that's done.
Well, I think because their proposal is to make facility enhancements, it would just be done at the 4 Porter County locations.
I mean, they did demonstrate the negative impact, and then they demonstrated what they were going to do positive. Yes, I have lots of questions like, do you need all 4 million?
Yeah.
And some other things like that. I did think they at least demonstrated some of the negative impact from COVID.
Okay.
I mean, it's again, outstanding organization, well-run, but I think they're sufficient in generating funds for the facility, especially right now.
It looked like, what, 8.4 million they've raised to date on this project?
Yeah.
For the Velvet Club, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, they've done the 2,100 meals served, so they are giving a, children's.
Yeah, they're in a constant, they're in a perpetual state of raising money.
Oh, well,
They've
yeah,
got
they have
be.
to.
Yeah.
They want us to be
I mean, they do that,
sustainable.
they do that well.
Yes.
Let's just have some questions and
Yeah.
entertain a motion to vote.
So moved.
I'll second.
Tomerlin,
Yes.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes?
Biggs,
Yes.
and Brickner.
Yes.
5 yeas, project advances.
We need 2 more, folks. VNA. Hospice, $500,000 request. I think we're all familiar with the VNA. They also are providing, they manage the operations of Meals on Wheels here in Porter County as well. During the pandemic, they, their nurses had to be tested weekly. They operate on volunteerism and donations, like some of these others that we spoke about tonight. They serve a huge need here in this county. Nobody else does what they do. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I've had the opportunity having to use them for family members, and thank God they're there.
I don't
I
see.
have some questions. But we're not going to know those unless we interview.
I thought it was real interesting that they said they've served here for 52 years with no monetary help, and they contribute more than $1.3 million a year to charity care.
Oh, yes, and asking for a van for $350,000, that's actually pretty cheap for a big van like that for what they're asking for. And with Meals on Wheels, when they what did they put? They went from 170 to 250 within 3 months, and then with they went from 70% of their hospice patients in the facility to 70% of them at home. That's a lot of increased traveling and a lot of increased costs, and
Yeah.
I don't think we're not going to need the VNA or Meals on Wheels anytime soon, so.
Yeah, and they had gone out when they took over the Meals on Wheels program here in this county. They actually went out and bought new vehicles
Yep.
to deliver those meals because the volunteers had been using theirs,
Yes.
which is, it's not right.
No,
So, I mean,
and like you said, I wish I didn't have the opportunity to have used them in the past, but they are invaluable.
well, honestly, I mean, they're just, it's godsend that they do what they do and do it as well as they do it.
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second.
Second.
Vance,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes?
Biggs,
Yes.
Brickner,
I wonder if I need to amend the 500,000, subtract $25, since they ran over my mom's mailbox. No, is that, no?
They ran over your mom's mailbox?
Kidding, that was, yeah, no, I vote yes.
and Tomerlin.
Yes.
Okay, 5 yeas, project advances.
The last one, Porter County Project Kids, $15,000. Say they will use these funds to continue our installations in schools.
Sensory boards,
Sensory boards?
yes.
Or paths.
Sorry, sensory paths.
What's that?
They showed pictures in the back. It's like they're going to mostly, I think, elementary schools. They put things on the floor.
Yes, my son loves them.
What is it? specifically designed decals with fun themes on the floor. They are more than just a fun activity. Neurologists have professionally designed them to start with gross motor activities, hopping, bending, squatting. Then they move to activities that require more attention. This sequence helps get the wiggles out and prepares them to learn.
And some of the paths have like the alphabet on them, numbers on it, so kids were more motivated when they're jumping to learn, things like that. It's definitely more for elementary school and younger kids.
Yeah.
My son's in kindergarten right now. They have similar, something like that within his classroom, but they're looking to add more to pretty much every elementary school. And they do have donors as well that put in funds.
I do have a concern, and I wish I could find the citation to this, but as I was outlining and making these questions to ask for last week, I read somewhere that the entity had to be in existence before the pandemic. And I couldn't find where I got that from. Do you know?
That refers to the impacted industries,
Oh.
including tourism.
Okay, so not to this.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
I'll double check that, but that
So they
is-
were not in existence
No,
before?
the newspaper or whatever article I saw, they just became a 501c3 in October of 2021. And but the harm is supposed to be to the organization, right? And so while they are doing something in response to COVID because, you know, harm to these kids' well-being, I mean, I like what they're doing and think it's great, and it's not that much money to support them. I just want to make sure that they qualify in the first place for funding. And I'm just, you cleared up part of that, but then I don't know about the harm.
So they weren't in existence during the pandemic here in this country?
Well, during it, yes, but not before. But then Vicki is just saying that
Created to meet a need.
qualification only applied to the tourism industry, and that's not what this is, so then maybe that doesn't
The
apply.
tourism type groups had to be in existence before the pandemic even hit, so in 2019 and beyond. But if you're a new group that started, let's say in 2020, you were in existence during the pandemic.
So is anybody familiar with what these decals or whatever that they place on, what are they meant to do?
They have sensory boards for toddlers and preschool. This is more for, obviously, kindergarten, first, second grade. Some of them have more textures on them. It's for kids to jump along and follow in line instead of like mass running down a hall. And so they get their wiggles out without causing mass chaos. There's some of that. But also, they did a lot of these outdoors in parks during COVID, and I think that's where some of this came along, is the parks started doing some outdoor sensory trails and boards. Like, for example, the Outdoor Education Center across from the Valpo Library, they have a specific path that kids run through, the mist path. That's kind of a sensory path for them. So these are more indoor paths versus the outdoor paths that have been put into parks. And again, I probably wouldn't know that if I didn't have a
We
kindergartner.
had similar programs in high school, or elementary school, Mike, didn't we? That sensory get in line?
I think it was a little bit differently
Yeah.
structured. Yep. It, you know, just to share, I am familiar with sensory disorder that these kids have, and sensory to textures, and been through that. So they do good work, but
So these are just children with this, no?
But these are for all kids.
For all kids. They see that they were harmed during the pandemic, having to isolate and be on computers all the time and that kind of thing, and then it's hard to get back into the school building,
Oh,
and
yes.
settle down and do normal school. And for a lot of these young kids, probably never knew normal.
Absolutely, and a lot of kids, when they got that much screen time, having to do all of that online, there are a lot of studies about kids and having issues when they're on a screen too much, so.
So you're
there's-
saying that this program in some ways addresses that?
That's exactly what that's where I think they were created, to address that need of getting kids back, getting that, getting them used to this.
Yeah. So it is helping to correct.
And it's
the harm.
$15,000.
I'll make a motion to vote.
Second.
Okay, Wagner,
Yes.
Biggs,
Yes.
Brickner,
No.
Tomerlin,
Yes.
and Vance.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 3 yeas and 2 nays. Project advances.
You voted no, Ed? Did you vote no?
I'm sorry.
Wait a minute.
You're
No, I
right,
voted
it's
yes.
4 yeses.
Did you
4
vote?
yeas, 1 nay.
She said 3 yeas, 2 nays.
It was 4, well, what I wrote down was 4 yays.
I might probably put 5 up anyway.
Okay, that concludes that. Vicki, is it asking too much to give us a tally on the amount that we approved to move on?
I don't have
16.
perfect. There were 16 out of 25 that advanced. So you did pare it down.
And you cut $2,579,136, so roughly 2.6 million.
Okay.
So we're down to about 10.
And Vicki, so everybody understands, what will your office be doing now that we've made this decision?
Well, I think the next step is going to be just, if I'm understanding what the subcommittee wanted, now you want to hear presentations from these groups. And so you have 16 groups. And you have 3 meetings scheduled. You have 4?
Yeah, the 25th, May 2nd. Check. I'm pretty sure we had the 23rd last.
There was one meeting I didn't have down, so I wasn't sure. So I would be, I'm assuming you want me to contact these groups on your behalf and to start scheduling. And what I did with another committee is that I gave them the dates. I'll make sure that we have the
We
right
do,
dates.
we have the 23rd as
We
well.
do have the 23rd. Okay.
The only Monday that we don't have is, we don't have.
Okay, so we have 4 meetings that have been scheduled. There's a couple of things you can do. You can divide these by 4 and hear 4 per night, or day, whenever you're going to have these meetings. Well, they're all set for 5 PM, right? Or you could try to add more so that you only have it over 3 meetings and then you have your last meeting for your final votes. It's up to you how you want to schedule this, but there's 16 that you voted to advance.
The other thing to consider is if you do 4 per meeting for these 4 Mondays. The next logical Monday would be May 30th, and not going to happen because that's Memorial Day. So you're going to be approaching the June mark rather than the end of May mark if you don't.
If we go beyond 4 meetings?
Yeah, the other thing is maybe consider a different day and time, you know, if possible, to plug in an extra meeting there.
I'm not opposed to hearing 4 a night, I think.
I think we try and get a timeline and just hear them and have it. Kind of see what the group thinks. I mean, try and have it finished, the presentations finished before Memorial Day.
We could maybe schedule a meeting on a different day that week of May 9th when we don't have the Monday night schedule.
I mean, after the 23rd?
You know, how do we come?
The week of May 9th.
See what else is there.
Okay, I see. So you would have 2 meetings, more or less.
They don't have.
Well, we don't have a meeting scheduled on Monday, May 9th. I thought it was because of room problems or something.
Good.
There's the water, stormwater.
Oh, okay.
but maybe
Put it on anyway.
a different day that week, we could meet.
And Kurt, real quick, what were the dates, what were the 4 dates that you had down?
We have the 25th, April 25th, May 2nd, May 16th, and May 23rd. If you want to do a meeting the week of May
May 9th?
9th, that Tuesday, May 10th is open in the evening, and Wednesday, May 11th is open in the evening.
What's the board's thoughts?
I would, my thought is that we reduce the number of meetings and try and get the presentations completed in the meetings we have scheduled now. That's my suggestion. Too many meetings, and I think we can just get them done, listen to them, and give a fair tally.
So you're good with the 4 that we have scheduled or less? 4?
The ones we have scheduled now to do all 16 of these within those 4 meetings somehow, schedule them in.
I have a question of how we're going to decide to, what to pass on to the steering committee, because do we need to wait till we've heard them all? Or may we, which I think things are fresher in my mind at least, if we meet in each meeting, after all the presentations are done for the evening, then we keep meeting to kind of decide about those that we just heard that night? Or do we need to have, because if we did that, I think we wouldn't need another meeting. But if the last group we're going to hear is the 23rd of May, then don't we either have to stay super late that night or have yet another meeting after that to decide what goes forward?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're going to have to summarize what we've heard over the last 4 meetings and then vote to move along those to the steering committee.
And remember, the steering committee has asked that you rank the projects, so
Oh,
that
so
they
we
know
have to
what
wait.
your top.
So we should meet at the end.
So we have to
and-
wait till we've heard them all then to
I
rank
guess
them.
that's why I was hoping we would meet that week of May 9th on a different night, so that way our last meeting could be the 23rd, or maybe last. So we could
Right.
get together and do the rankings on the 23rd of May
That's what I think we have
and
to
be
do.
done by,
Well, if we have a rubric,
yeah.
I mean, technically the rankings are done, we just don't know until the very end what the score,
Yeah.
what everybody's score
We could have
is.
some ties though, too, I suppose.
Well, we can have ties in the rank.
Yeah, I would be in favor of having a meeting that week of May 9th, either that Tuesday or Wednesday.
So we'll be done.
Let's see
by the
what
end.
Mike's saying, but I just don't think, Mike, there's any way of avoiding it. I mean, to having a 5th meeting. The only,
I can't do more than 4 nights.
So we would have 5 more meetings, and then the last meeting
Would be
before
the
the 30th
23rd.
would be our group
yeah,
discussion.
yeah. So we'd meet, say hypothetically, on the 2nd, 10th, 16th, and then the 23rd. You said the 10th was open?
Yeah, both the 10th and 11th are open, those 2 evenings are open. So either Tuesday or Wednesday.
What's the pleasure of the board, 10th or the 11th?
I can do either night.
10th?
10th.
10th, okay. It's the 10th. Sorry, Eric, you don't get a vote.
That's all right. You wouldn't hear me anyways.
So I'll contact the applicants and schedule for the following dates: April
Yes.
25th, May 2nd, May 10th, and May 16th. And then May 23rd is your wrap-up meeting.
Wrap up. And I would let them know that it will be, that the board will be, discussing
Right.
what moves on.
Right.
There will be no opportunity to question the board at that point. Your time is when you come in to interview. Meaning, because they're all going to come in here on the 23rd, wondering if, and we don't want to get ourselves in a situation where we open it up and everybody starts interviewing again.
Right, right. Now, so we're going to have the 4 meetings, right? Where did I keep this? Yeah. And so there's 16, so 4 per meeting, and then the time limit that you'd like to set them for? And then, let me tell you what the other groups are doing. One other group, which you're on, it was 15 minutes apiece plus another 15 minutes Q&A. Another group is saying 20 minutes and 10 minutes Q&A. And the other one didn't set a timeline, and we're going to have to talk about that, time restriction.
Or they got like half a dozen applications, though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, that's a struggle here, because this group here has the most applications, so we have to be somewhat, you know,
I
judicious.
still think 15 minutes is a long time for, that's a long presentation.
Well, they don't have to use it all.
And
I mean,
then
some of them-
another, it's going to be a half hour per, so we do, you know.
2 hours.
Yeah, well, with 4 on a night, that would only be 2 hours. And I think it's good to have, allow a 15-minute presentation and then 15 minutes Q&A, each one of them. They might not take up the whole time, but
That's the
you
max.
can,
That's
you
the
can, yeah,
that's
you
the
can tell them
max.
that's the limit. They don't have to feel that they have to take up the whole time.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to be, you know, we're going to have to be very disciplined up here in regard to the Q&A section.
You may not use the whole Q&A session.
Yeah,
Exactly.
might not use it.
And some people their presentations may be 10 minutes. We're just allowing ourselves
Right.
2 hours to do the 4 full. We may get out of there in an hour and a half, who knows?
We can use a timer.
But we won't
So
exceed 2.
so if they're scheduled, would we advise them? I mean, let's just say somebody's scheduled at the last presentation, they might not show up till their time, but we have a half hour
Should all be here.
of
Tell them they all have to
open
be here at
time,
the
so
beginning.
Yep.
Right, the cattle call.
they should be here.
Yes.
Okay.
And there will be, and that's a very good point. And there's not going to be any exceptions made.
Right.
You're here when you're supposed to hear, just like if it were a job interview. We're giving away millions and millions and millions of dollars here. You can at least show up on time. And it's not fair to the applicants that do.
And if it's all right with you, I'll follow the same process as I did with the other committee, where I asked them to rank their preference of their dates, and then try to accommodate everyone's schedule. Or would you want to schedule them? Just go down the list, the first 4 on this date, the next 4 on this date?
If I were you, I would look down there and say, these 4 are going this date, these 4 are going this date, and again, we're giving away a lot of money here. I know if I had a chance to receive tens or in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, and somebody said, but you got to be here this time and date, Biggs, I'm there.
But we want to have the right person there.
Well,
They can
I mean,
answer
it's,
all the
in all
questions.
fairness to your office, I mean, you've taken on a huge responsibility here. It is not part of your job description. I know it's probably filled a lot of time that you didn't have to fill to begin with in your day-to-day, operations. So, I mean, everybody's got to cooperate with everybody else, so.
Would you be okay if I asked them their preferences, but if it doesn't work out, you will be assigned a date? Because we have to get this scheduled.
You can do it any way you feel most comfortable with and you're willing to tolerate, so.
The emails will be going out tomorrow.
And you'll be sending the questions out too?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you next, but it's just so that we make sure that we don't have scheduling changes later on. Oh, a conflict came up, I can't make the meeting date. If you tell us that you
You mean the
can make-
applicant saying that?
Yes.
No. They better have a plan B then,
They're committed.
yeah.
Okay, so that will go out, and I'm assuming you would also want me to contact the ones who did not advance.
Yeah, it's reasonable to assume there's more than one person in these organizations can make that presentation. And my recommendation to this is to have 2 of them. So there is no excuse.
Right. And we also have Kurt prepared a handout on what to do if you have a PowerPoint, and there's instructions that will go with it.
Perfect.
And if they do have a PowerPoint, they are to bring their own copies here. We're not making copies for everyone. It's all in the instructions that everyone will receive. It's pretty clear cut.
Yeah, I just think here's, what is it? 6 here that wish they had that opportunity, and they're not going to get it. So telling people they need to be here at a certain time and date and be ready to answer these questions is not too much to ask.
The other thing, when you were asking about the questions, where we're going to provide them the questions that came up during your discussion, here's what Vicki and I talked. Probably the easiest thing to do is tomorrow I will send Vicki a link to this video, and that she will ask each person that she's inviting, be sure you watch this video, because there are specific questions that you may be asked and you need to be prepared.
Right.
And because that's the easy, we can't sit here and note each question that was made about each application. We'll put it on them to watch the video to find out what in particular you all raised as questions.
Yeah, and it just put in bold print, if they have any questions, please contact this number and ask for this person.
And I think that's a good idea. Doing. The other thing, though, is I think somewhere, at least I know for myself, along the voting as we were going, we kind of quit being specific about our questions, and maybe I know I didn't state all of mine because it was kind of getting to the point where, okay, we're going to vote up or down whether they're going ahead, and I thought, okay, they'll get the questions later. But like I don't have them all down, but I made notes on the front page of each one of mine, and I listed questions I had. You're welcome to look at, if you want them, to borrow them and go down the list of questions I had for each one. You're more than welcome to it, but and I don't know that they include everybody's questions, but.
Okay, mine's mainly on, can you clearly demonstrate the negative impact from COVID?
Yeah.
Give me some numbers, and can you directly correlate what you're doing as a positive response that can
Yeah.
And that is your
go
requirement.
with that?
Yes, well, that should be,
Some of those numbers weren't
that
in
should
there.
be really the meat and potatoes of the
Correct.
presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I don't need to hear that, the Liberty Township Fire Department fights fires.
know that.
Yeah, we know that.
Right.
So,
Right.
We need to quantify
Like-
all those numbers.
Yes.
You were raising questions in your questions about, was there demonstrative proof of economic harm? And some of those questions weren't really answered, so hopefully during the presentation, they'll answer it.
Yes.
But also, I would advise not to zero in and say these are the only questions, because during the presentation, they might say something that you might want to ask a follow-up on. And you have every right to do that.
but it's not just about the economic harm. It's also about what role did your organization play during the pandemic that made it less, burdensome on our residents? What help did you offer? What did you do?
Well, that's one of the questions that the rule tells you, challenges or difficulty in getting through the pandemic because of your increased demands.
Right. Just be prepared. Question, is your office going to take care of notifying these people that,
Sure.
okay, thank you,
We have all the emails now.
okay.
Would we want to ask each one of the nonprofits for their copies of their Form 990s?
That would be helpful because in going online, I have found that most of the 990s are still from what year are we in? 2019. And that's not suggesting that they didn't file their 2020. That could just mean that it's not yet posted online. So if we could see their 990s. Now, many probably did not file their 2021 yet.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine.
Tax day.
Any other
I did
questions?
find a few that filed their they're 2021, but those were the very small ones where it's just the informative postcard return. So it would be helpful if they could just one copy, right, to look at.
Yeah, so that you have it, or,
Any other comments? Any public comment? Anybody like to speak from the public? Cecilia? Yeah.
I'm Selena Weatherwax. I'm president of the MAC Foundation. I simply want to say thank you. I've been sitting throughout these meetings, and I know this is hard work, and so I'm so grateful for your determination in seeing this process through, and wanted just to say that I appreciate everything that you're doing to support the first responder community and, of course, the other nonprofits here throughout Porter County.
Anybody else care to speak? Gentlemen? Nothing? Nothing?
Just thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Dave, anything in the back there? You got anything to say? Interesting as hell, isn't it, Dave? Yes, sir.
Just one quick comment. I'm Bob Franco, President and CEO of the VNA. Thank you for all the great comments tonight, and Mike will make sure we get that mailbox fixed. We've had a little run of knocking over mailboxes and light posts over the last few months, and I don't know what's going on with that. Vicki, you mentioned that we would get some specific questions. We'll rewatch the video. We've been keeping notes about specifically what we are to address in the presentations that would make it most helpful to make the recommendations. So I just wanted to make sure that, will there be, in the email, will there be specific questions in there, or should we all just go look at the video and pull information out?
Both, because we're going to talk about that question list that we talked about at the last
Okay,
meeting.
perfect, thank you.
Bob, for the record, nobody hit the mailbox. I was just messing with you. Have been using the service, so it's been compliments to your people.
I'll entertain a motion, question. Oh, the scoring rubric.
Yes,
we didn't do
yes.
that yet.
You might recall that at the last meeting, we talked about the scoring rubric. There was a question to make some changes, sort of combine sustainability and collaboration, and to remove that for any of the small businesses. And you do have one small business, so that'll be adjusted. You also asked about a scoring rubric for other COVID-19 assistance. So I'm going to pass out the adjusted rubric, take a look at it. Also, you talked about if I could combine the two lists of questions that were discussed at the last meeting. You had one set of questions that Ruth prepared, and then the other that Commissioner Biggs gave from the steering committee. So I tried my best to combine the two. The format was, the two lists were a little bit different, but I tried my best to combine the two. And so you could take a look at it. I'm calling it a draft.
Yeah.
The priority considerations is largely unchanged because that is clearly what the steering committee wants you to do. And please note, the last question is the entity willing to take less funding? That is something that the steering committee wants you to ask.
Are we prepared to address this tonight and to approve it?
I think you could just look at, because I just finished it this afternoon, so you're just looking at it now.
Well,
But that's
my
very.
thought is, this would be helpful to pass along to the ones that are going to be interviewed,
Okay,
to see this.
okay, I thought it
They're
was
gonna be
those
scored.
lists of questions.
Yeah.
So what should I pass along to the groups?
I think
thought
this
it
would
was-
be very helpful to those that are going to be interviewed, how we're going to score.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Always nice to be straightforward.
and then that second sheet is the questions, the yes/no questions. I think mostly are for, to keep that in the back of your mind, or you could ask them outright. But you have to evaluate the financial impact that they suffered and how the use of the money responds to that impact. So let me know if there's any changes you want to have made. It'll be fine-tuned for your next meeting, which is the 25th, Monday.
Well, the end goal here for us is to is to be as helpful as we can be to the steering committee. So my hope is that, unless during an interview that somebody disqualifies himself over something they said or couldn't say, my hope is to move everybody along with a status of either a gold A or silver A to help the steering committee decide. All right. Any other questions? I think we're up to,
So just to clarify, you want me to send both of those things to the,
how does the rest of the board feel? I do. I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, because
Yes.
to know how you're gonna be graded or scored, and to know what you're gonna be asked, so you can be really prepared.
Absolutely. Don't want to give someone a test and not tell them what's on it.
so to answer Bob's question, you're gonna get a lot of. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.